I just want to be assailed with clips of me acting slutty, okay? What other Penglosian wisdom willst thou bestoweth upon us, Daddy? I want to know. I want to know.
Also something that I want, you know. As much fun as it is to argue with people like Professor Flowers, though keep in mind, like, I never expect these conversations to blow up the way they do. I'm usually ready for an amicable conversation. The drive behind all of it is that I want to make the online left better. I think the online left is driven in large part by an unwillingness to engage in and be receptive towards conflict, and also by a kind of ideological weakness, an inability to reconcile their perspectives with outside criticisms, a desire to turn inward. The right doesn't have this issue because being wrong doesn't stop them, and they're not concerned with being consistent from point to point. You know, they can. It's like a, you know, it's like.
So here it is. Here's Vaush's thing. He thinks that the only leftists that should be allowed in the ring, in other words, he wants to gatekeep people from the left who aren't thinking about things from a right-wing set of optics, right? That's what he means about insular, okay? He means that you don't care how you appear to a fascist audience. Whereas Vaush does. Vaush cares a lot how he appears to a hard right audience. Vaush always has the Killstream audience in the back of his head. And that's part of why he's so fucked up, right? That's part of why a lot of times he's just not a leftist. Like the shit that he says, you just can't resolve it with leftism, right? He's not coming from the same place as a lot of us, right? And it shows. And it is a problem, and there's no easy solution to, you know, fixing that, especially given how coddled he is in his own community.
There is a lot of echo chambering. I think, for the most part, when I have these conversations with people like Professor Flowers, I'm always hoping that they'll have a come to Jesus moment, that, you know.
But instead of Jesus, it's come to Daddy.
On their wrongdoing.
They'll sit down on your lap.
Some understanding. They don't have to like me. Yeah, I know you exhale,
what
but
was the
you exhaled.
wrongdoing
Called
in
out.
that regard? The wrongdoing of the claim that about
called out. I can't believe you exhaled, my dude. That was
in that specific
listen.
case, I'm curious.
That was a bad faith exhale. Okay, so Vaush is right according to his definition of the right.
So she made a few mistakes. Though keep in mind, your whole video was an attempt to instill, sort of by proxy, a come to Jesus in me. Obviously, your video was directed at people who are watching the video. It's not a claim made directly at me, but that is the goal then, as you acknowledge the belief that people can change. And I imagine it must come across as incredibly conceited for me to say, you know, oh, look at these 48 people, minorities on the left who disagree with me. I can't wait for them all to shape up. But, you know, stranger things have happened. That's why I like to take it point by point. With Professor Flowers, the essentialization thing in particular was pretty bad. Likewise, she was giving leeway to ethnic cleansing. Now, you know, if she had just acknowledged that, we could have argued about how, you know, sometimes in times of great need, you know, you might be able to justify this, that, the other. But she wouldn't own up to it, which was really frustrating.
I think, like, that's where I disagree, is that...
Yeah, so what he's saying is that, like, she was being an ethno-nationalist. She just wouldn't admit it or something.
You know, it's sprinkled throughout that conversation where she said that that's not something that people are considering. But the question that was being posed by you was, you know, if they did this, if they decided to do this, what would you say to that?
The issue I have is Professor Flowers was saying that colonized people, by which she meant black people, should have the right to decide whether to live with their oppressors. And given it was the context of South Africa, that would be white people. And in following qualifications, you know, she's essentially said that what I'm about to infer is correct, but when you're talking about choosing to live with in the context of a nation state, we're talking about killing a group or deporting them, and either meet the definition of an ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, again, I just disagree that at the level of conversation that was being had, that was something that was
When Vaush says killing or deporting, the situation he's envisioning is one in which the colonized have the power, right? And in doing so, he's utilizing a fucking scenario from another timeline, right? There was, oh my god, does anybody remember there's a stand-up comic that was like talking about reverse racism?
Reverse racism.
And like, you know, they said that like one of their white friends said to the, what about reverse racism? It's like, okay, like reverse racism doesn't exist, but if it did exist,
I could be a reverse racist if I wanted to. And what I'd do is I'd get in my time machine, I'd go back in time, and I'd convince the leaders of Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Central and South America to invade and colonize Europe.
You basically have to go to an alternate timeline. And that's why it's so disingenuous to sort of bring that up, right? But the thing is, a lot of us white people fall for that shit. A lot of us white people have some kind of fear that stems from white guilt of like, what if a group that we had historically victimized did the same thing to us? And this fear isn't connected to reality, isn't connected to the present day, isn't connected to the situation that we're in, and doesn't really have any place in the discourse because it's our bullshit to deal with. Yeah?
Believe in the fear of retribution. I think that overwhelmingly any indigenous community is just going to want to reestablish some sort of presence on their land. They're
calling her a racist for using the word colonizer. Yeah, it's a slur.
But this is leeway I don't think you or anyone would give anyone else. The right to decide. Now, it's true she said, I don't want genocide, I don't want this, I don't want that, but I've argued with a lot of right-leaning people who will shy away from the term we have for bad things, but then justify the bad things through other terms.
What Vaush doesn't understand is that Lua never appropriated white supremacist talking points and just flipped the, you know, it's the other way around. White supremacists attempt to garnish themselves in the appearance of wokeness. At times they'll appropriate words like self-determination, but understand which way the appropriation is working, right?
Terminology. It's really common, and it's why they get mad at me for asking them qualifying questions, because they feel
and not in that they like took, you know, actually took the principles and applied them. It's that they tried to cloak themselves in that. They tried to, you know, appropriate that, right? And they twisted it. And that's why it's not, you can't conflate these things, because on one side it's twisted. It's very, very twisted. And if you can't see that, I don't know how much use you are to the left.
Into defending, say, for example, the ethnic cleansing of Latin Americans who come up from the border, when that's explicitly what they want, but they don't like the term ethnic cleansing. They don't like it because light's being shown on positions they'd rather leave to implication. In Professor Flowers' case, it wasn't very implicit. It was pretty explicit. And I feel like
this pisses me off every time I have to.
Professor Flowers indeed endorsed, or at the very least held water for ethnic cleansing, without sacrificing any real talking points concerning decolonization, because that's not decolonization. That's like very, very out there. You know, it's not. That doesn't have anything to do with the actual like political.
That's kind of what she said.
You know, talking points, right?
That's kind of what she said. She was saying that there's not a lot of scenarios that she envisions like a solution, you know, being that absurd, that absurd binary would be, you know, what has to be dealt with, right? That most of the time it doesn't look like that. Most of the time, you know, it's enacted in a different way. And that honestly, like, and this is me putting my thing on that I think that whether or not it actually would get to a situation like that would depend on the intransigence of the colonizer, right? Not on the intent or morality of the colonized. That's a bit absurd on its face.
Yeah, so I just disagree with that claim that is what, like, the ideology. And again, like, so
okay, I'm trying not to get
in the full debate. I've watched everything multiple times, and I don't see how anyone would come to that conclusion.
Mad.
I think what's being valued here is the moments in the debate where, you know, you got that impression. But I don't think that's what she was ever saying. And I think even to, like, again, I see the perspective of you are trying to, like, again, it's like an optical thing. It's right, like Republican fear-mongering of CRT is where black people want to kill everybody, so I'm trying to investigate that claim. But again, that, like, I think you came in with that framing, or with that, not intent, but you were primed to interpret what she was saying in that manner, and so many other people interpreted in a totally different way, in a way that I find correct, which is that, you know, these types of things can't be compared. Like decolonization and Nazism can't be compared. There's no point of comparison. And even to like make that equivocation, again, like you're saying, like right-wingers say these things.
This is going to piss me off, isn't it?
They come in, they try and like hide their intentions. I think you viewed, and sometimes do view, these conversations as a one-to-one comparison.
Vaush and Xanderhal, they are obsessed with the Black Hebrew Israelites and Black Hammer and groups like that. They love that, because what they want to do is they want to be able to bookend this. They want to be able to say, all right, so we looked over at the right and we saw the kill stream, we saw the Nazis, we saw the alt-right, we saw the, oh yeah, no, we don't like them, we don't like those. But then we looked over on the left, and over way far on the left, we saw, you know, Black Hammer, and oh god, what is the dude's name? I can't remember the dude's name from Black Hammer, but you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, like, and we saw the, you know, like, right, the just like, you want that bookend. And it doesn't matter if this bookend over here weighs 21 times what this bookend weighs. It doesn't matter if this bookend weighs 200 times what this bookend weighs. We're gonna fucking pretend that these are equal. We're gonna pretend that it's all balanced. And that's why this guy's a centrist. In his own way, this guy's a centrist. Like, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like centrist aesthetics, right? Centrist values. Liberal values. I hate to say it. I'm not trying to get on the radlib train, but Jesus Christ, I don't know what else to call it.
Luis Farrakhan, are you more familiar with his political prescriptions?
Yeah.
Right.
I've never...
Once an ethno-state, hates
I believe
Jews,
it's Lewis,
homosexuals,
but I could be wrong.
Believes that his race is the master race, that he has, you know, an ancestral genetic connection to essentially a superior.
I don't see how that could be justified.
The critical
again, like,
difference
you're
here,
making a comparison between things that they're just different. Like, they're just different things, and I don't see
have
like
to be made between different things. The point is to illustrate similarities. So with
Oh
Luis
my
Farrakhan,
God.
I have noted, of course, the fact that he.
Something that I've noted, but with these debate bros, is that they are fast and loose with their comparisons, right? So when we're doing an analogy, what we want to say is we want to say, hey, this over here, X, is kind of similar to this over here, Y. Now, I'm not saying that they're the same, because, you know, then we're talking about the same thing, right? So there's X and there's Y. There's a reason to call these different variables, but I would say within the parameters of these aspects, X is equal to Y. So if we're talking about like a metal rod and a wood rod, what we mean is that they're the same length. That in the context of length, they're the same. Now, are they the same in weight? Can we say that? Okay, so they're the same length, they got to be the same weight. No, because the one's metal and the other one's wood. They don't weigh the same. They're not as hard as each other. They're not as porous as each, you know what I mean? There's a lot of aspects. You could look at a metal rod and a wood rod of the same like length and say that they're not equal. So if you start like, you know, comparing X to Y, and just because X has the same length as Y, you're going to tell me that the weight is probably right there as well. No, you haven't shown me that. And this is, I hate to keep going back to the example, but this is my debate with Irrelevant, right? Irrelevant says, you know, gender self-ID, you know, basically in saying, in comparing gender self-ID to blackface, which he did, he's saying that, that that race and sex are analogous, right? And while they may be analogous in certain respects, right, as far as being marginalizations of oppression, for instance, right? You can't start assuming that these are parallel in every aspect, and they're not. And that's why Irrelevant's wrong, and that's why his argument is asinine. That's why his argument is asinine and purely made to slander me, right? Like, Irrelevant, what you were doing is comparing my existence to blackface. Saying that, in a lot of ways, what you're saying is trans women aren't women. All right? And I never rubbed your face in it, but I'll call it out now. All right?
For both of our sakes, unless you want to get assailed with clips proving you're wrong, accept this point and move forward, upon the presumption that she believes white people equals colonizer.
Listen, I just want to be assailed with clips of me acting slutty, okay?
How do you frame what she said?
Though.
Somebody should do that to me sometime.
Again,
just cut up all the times I act like a...
We're talking about, like, I've looked through it all. I flatly disagree. And
all the times when No Comment Chick was horny on main.
It's
one mega.
This type of like, one step leads to the next step leads to the next step. What the net result of that is online is people tweeting at her, calling her pro-genocide. And that's not, like, again, this is objectively not what she was ever saying. This is not what she was saying. And like, I know you got that impression from the debate that you watched with him, and you could pull up clips and tweets or whatever, but, like,
with nothing in your hands, arguing against evidence that hundreds of thousands of people have seen, in which she unambiguously, as directly as you can, said the thing you won't accept. The only thing that I can assume this is, apart from maybe you two are like secret best buddies or something and it's like a personal thing, is you understand that if you fall on this point, you fall on the next one. I am, because this is an enormous waste of time, just going to rip the L from your hands. She said what she said. She thinks white people are colonizers. If you are, with respect, too spineless to own up to the fact that she clearly... No,
dude, this is...
Wait,
like...
Noah.
Yeah.
This is the problem I have. I get framed as a bully.
I mean, I know this is not a playground. I know that there's nobody really getting hit or anything like that. There's not like the physical aspect of bullying. But yeah, no, it does feel like bullying. It does feel you are being a dick. Is that what you are looking for? Is that what you're trying to wriggle out of? Being a dick? You are being a dick. There's no denying that. There's no denying that. Okay? Now I know you think you're a dick for great justice. But from this angle, you just look like a dick.
When a person is behind me screaming and dancing a point, and I point at it and say, that's fucked, and then people
I'm the
tell
king of the
me
castle
that it's not even
vibes.
there. It is insane. In this respect, we can move forward. You can say, I don't care. You know what? Maybe Professor Flowers is a genocide denier or whatever, or like an ethnic cleansing supporter. If she had owned it, I wouldn't have cared so much.
If she had just owned it, yeah. Well, like now you sound like Destiny. Listen, you could say what you will about Mr. Girl's like takes on things, but at least he owns it. At least he's not afraid of optics. You sound like a DGGer. You sound like your enemy.
To run this dishonesty cycle where people gaslight the shit out of me. At this point, do you know how many times I've rewatched the Professor Flowers
I'm trying
debate?
not to get mad.
Over
I'm trying
6,
not to get too mad.
Because people keep talking about some other second debate that never happened, that apparently I was a part of. I am told that I said racist stuff, and I look back and no, and I'm told that she said this thing that owned me, and I look back and no. I keep going it over and over, and it legitimately fucks with me.
Nice, it will fly.
Because all the things I thought I said happened, and all the things I thought she said happened. Every time. But people don't want to believe that, because it would be big bad Vaush.
Invested guy.
The narrative crumbles.
Big bad Vaush.
If they were lying, if I was right, we never can overcome this. If this is the standard of evidence that I have to provide, I assume brainwaves from her to you to convey the fact that she doesn't think of this as some kind of essentialist thing. You know, I can't meet that evidence, but if you want to provide, then I ask you, when she talked about the right to live away from your oppressors, who was she referring to? In South Africa, we'll ignore what she said because she said white people. So we'll invalidate her.
This is where like I think this conversation isn't going to glean anything more because
good call. Yes.
To use.
Is anybody else rooting for Noah to ditch the call at this point? Is anybody else rooting for Noah to hit that telephone button on Discord? I know I am.
Again, I just fundamentally disagree in the debate with these claims that you're pulling from them that she somehow promoted genocide against white people by the colonized, which is a real danger.
It's really what we should be concentrated on is Mayo-cide. It's a huge problem.
Nobody said otherwise.
It's a huge problem, chat. Mayo-cide is a huge danger. We got to put all our effort into, that's a huge, that's a huge contingency that we should really plan for.
I believe that you should give autonomy to
Mayo-cide,
but then also say you shouldn't do ethnic cleansing. Those are the fact that there's been an effort.
And that's what she said, dude. That's what that's literally what she said in her videos and multiple times in the debate.
The video is titled "Noah Hung Up."
And I can
My
tell
hater spirals out of control. Yes,
they often lie.
Vaush, everybody who doesn't agree with you is spiraling.
Misrepresent their own position.
We're all spiraling.
Avoiding the most severe condemnations they could possibly receive.
Chat, are you spiraling?
How many conservatives have I talked to?
Can I get some spirals in chat? Do we have spirals? Is there any way you can give me spirals, chat?
Because he's a national hero.
I'm not sure if that's a thing. We need some Nazgul Vortex emotes or something, right? Some spirals? I don't know.
It's being framed as some let's wait on the science thing.
The picture of Dugan going down the drain or something.
Conservative point of contention. Then,
in a toilet. Oh my god, chat. Haas would be so mad. Haas would be so mad.
With Professor Flowers. We can move on.
Yes, we got spirals.
Lord
we can have spirals
to talk about, but
we're all spiraling, Vaush.
In this specific respect,
my entire chat.
I do not feel like I'm engaging in motivated reasoning. She said, I was about to say all but said, but she actually said, colonizers are white people are colonizers. So the essentialist tie has been drawn. Nobody here was talking about denying South African black people autonomy. Nobody ever said that. I certainly never said that. I just don't think you should be able to displace.
You prefer twirling. Oh yeah, make the dress go spinny.
Again, she doesn't think that either. So
I'm gonna knock things over if I'm not careful.
At that point, that's fine, but we should just move on because that's.
Which is, as far as I'm concerned, objectively and provably correct.
Ian Danskin. Oh god. Yeah. Hey, listen. I have talked to Ian. On Twitter, once or twice, right? And yeah. I've been noticing that a lot of Ian's alt-right playbook stuff, it really applies to DebateBros. And it's not surprising when we talk about how Vaush's takes are informed by the right-wing gaze. But by thinking about how is this going to come off to the Killstream crowd, right? And when you've got that little voice in the back of your head, when you don't realize it becomes a devil on your shoulder, and that's there you go. That explains Vaush, right?
Point out bad belief, that would be like saying it's harassment. Your video is harassment against me because you accused me of engaging in upholding white supremacy, right? At that point, every criticism is harassment.
Yeah, and Neondo Studios is really good.
I guess it's like.
Vaush bad.
If a premise, which I believe to be false, and which I think, given the content of what she's done, is, I think, provably false. Again, you say it's provably false because of what she said in the debate. I say it's provably false because of what she said in her videos. That's not going to ever change. But I think,
listen,
the nature of this.
Vaush may be bad, but NCC is unironically evil.
Harassment isn't.
Remember that. Unironically
acknowledged as being. I think there's a difference in the types of harassment. That
are we supposed to
say they are harassing for XYZ reason? If there's outright racist vitriol, which you've said, when that happens in your community, you ban people, and when people do it, they can do it under the guise of something else. But I think there's a different level of harassment where based on how these interactions go, people feel justified and emboldened to attack people at any level because of these characterizations that I don't think are accurate or honest. And so I guess like your question was, what defines harassment? I don't know. It's like again, if you're characterizing someone as doing something so extreme that they didn't do, then really any time you're opening that window to the unlimited, like whatever people want to say is therefore justified, right? Because you're saying this person wants to kill people. Basically, they are openly murderous against a race of.
Would this conversation end well? This is worrying since Vaush has another chance to. Yeah, exactly.
And then I look at my community. My community criticizes the shit out of other people, but in this is not the contempt present in how I'm treated by others. It's just not there. I know. I look at my YouTube comments. I look at my Reddit. I look at
the
people who
Saltines comment. Yeah.
My community doesn't like people when they give bad political takes. But holy Christ, like, it's nothing. And this narrative that my community does the harassment is how people like you give shields to people who harass me, because it makes me out to be the instigator, the eternal arbiter of harassment, who can never ever have too much done against them because they use the language of Professor Flowers. Oh, do I harass Vaush? Well, no amount of harassment I do to him could ever even come close to what he's done to other people. Evidence pending, of course. But
wait. That's literally true, though. That's literally true. She's a 20K account. Okay, which is way bigger than me, but like it's not. You're much bigger, Vaush. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How could Professor Flowers harass you? Where's the? I don't see how she's wrong. I don't see how she's wrong in that statement. I don't see how you could argue against it.
Okay, so I guess like
I don't get it. I don't get it, Vaush. I don't get it.
That like those are two different types of things.
I don't understand
the way you've explained like what you experience and what like I guess people in your community experience or whatever.
The worst harassment comes from Vaush gaslighting other leftist creators and his community parroting him. It's harassment through his massive community, even if they don't. Kind of like just extreme forms of horrible. It's almost like he's ignorant about how power works. Yeah, and I wonder whether that's a true ignorance or that's a strategic ignorance. Feigned ignorance even, right? I don't know.
Vitriolic shit, like none of that is good. I don't want any of that, but I don't think using that, like I see what you mean.
What's up, Big Cub? Look, my intelligence regarding subjects of sociology and politics, philosophy, and debating is lacking, but the smug privilege dripping from this guy is beyond belief. Basically, Vaush claims victimhood. Hold on. Voosh uses everything that happens to him online as a shield for being awful. So how come this is the first time he's bringing up all this harassment he's getting? Voosh is full of shit. He pretends he doesn't understand when it's profitable.
About these things not being like one being more important to call out than the other, but I don't think that
American brain.
I don't think it follows that means like the type of stuff that I'm talking about is necessarily false. Do you know what I mean? I think like we can look at things like what happened to Professor Flowers and say like that is objectively bad, while also saying we shouldn't, people shouldn't treat you the way they've treated you in those examples you've just brought up. I think both
type of
they're not the same thing. They're not.
Okay.
I agree. I totally agree. But I'm saying like if we're using one of the.
So to the extent that there is a correct tact in here, because like, you kind of, if you end up debating Vaush, you're already fucked up, right? I think, right? I don't think it's a good idea. But if you do end up here, right, the correct thing to say is like kind of feign some sympathy for the guy, right? Like reach out to his inner child and be like, oh my gosh, Vaush, I can't believe that you had to deal with all this harassment. And here I was worried about Professor Flowers. When I should know she's tough and she can take it. But Vaush, this is the real issue, is the harassment that I would fucking make him eat that. I would make him eat that. Oh, chat, it would be so good. It would be so good.
those two just
but don't do that.
like,
Don't. It's bad. It's wrong. I'm wrong.
And that's not
I'm
not
wrong.
conducive to like an inclusive space.
It would need to be demonstrated.
You shouldn't
that it is
debate the
indeed a
dude
problem.
in the first place.
I think it's important, and you do too. Judging
there is
from the
no
video
correct
that you
answer.
made and I watched to curtail bad behavior.
It's like the only way to win the game is not to play. It's like that movie
on the left. I mean,
what was that movie where the guy's like playing Battleship, but it turns into real life? You know what I mean? And it's like the only way to win is not to play.
What is a video?
You know what I'm talking about? It's like Battleship.
If not an invitation to
I think it's Battle. I think it's called Battleship. Is that Battleship? Am I thinking of Battleship?
That's not a bad thing, by the way. We all cultivate the garden. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how political and social movement.
Voltaire. What other Panglossian wisdom willst thou bestoweth upon us, Daddy? I want to know. I want to know.
Let's keep things together.
We got Professor Pangloss in the house.
Professor Flowers is a ludicrously...
Hey, listen. Who needs Professor Flowers when you've got Professor Pangloss? Look, clearly we live in the best of all possible worlds. Clearly, chat, we must cultivate our own garden. Oh my god, I love it, chat. I love it. I fucking love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
In terms of what should or should not be allowed in the left. And for the harassment she's received, what? People say that she said the things she said? Do I see death threats? Real harassment? Rape threats? Sexist or racist accusations? I'm sure some have happened just as a product of the size of my community, but... And if bring those screenshots to me, I'll ban those people, but... Whenever
just like
Destiny,
just like Destiny,
people telling her that she's bad for saying the things that she said directly to me.
You bring me those screenshots,
Twitter, and then again with him, and then again on other panels.
And what he's like the thing is like, okay, if it's anything like my harassment, they don't use their actual accounts, dumbass. So yeah, I can bring you a list of names, and it's all going to be like Irene Stux, Irene Ugly, Irene Butt. You know, it's gonna be stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can ban all those people that don't exist on your forums.
You have to give me more than Professor Flowers didn't say the things she said because she said other things that weren't the things she said. I need more than that. Should I not? Should I take everyone then at their word, every criticism? Mel, the genocide denier, is
you feel like Vaush is giving you Destiny vibes? You are not alone in that. I think so too. I've been saying this. Yeah, Eris, I agree with you.